I didn't think anything of it the first time. It was just a stop. Somewhere between errands I didn't really need to run and going home to a place that didn't feel like mine yet. The cafe was quieter than I expected. Not empty, just padded. Like the sound stayed inside the walls instead of echoing. Cups clinking, a chair dragging slightly, someone coughing into their sleeve. Nothing that asked for attention. I picked a table near the window. Not for the view. There wasn't much of one. But because it gave me something to look at that wasn't people. I ordered whatever came out of my mouth first. Black coffee. I don't even like it that much. I remember folding the napkin into smaller and smaller squares while I waited. No reason. Just something to do with my hands. That's when I heard my name. Not loud. Not surprised. Just said like it had been used recently. I looked up, and it took me a second. She was standing near the counter, one hand loosely wrapped around a paper cup, the other holding her phone but not really looking at it. Hair tied back in a way that felt more practical than styled. There was something familiar in the way she tilted her head slightly, like she was waiting for me to catch up. "Hi," she said. "It's been a while." I stood up too fast. The chair made that dragging sound again. Yeah. I didn't expect to see you here." She smiled, but not fully. Just enough to acknowledge the moment without pushing it. "I come here sometimes," she said. "It's close." I nodded like that explained everything. It took another second before it clicked properly. She's my friend's mom. Or, she was, in the way things used to be. He moved away. We stopped talking as much. Life did that quiet drifting thing where no one says goodbye, but somehow it still happens. And now she was here, standing in front of me like none of that time had passed in the right way. "You look," I started, then stopped. She raised an eyebrow, waiting. "Different," I finished. "Different how?" I shrugged, looking down at the table for a second. "I don't know. Just different." She let out a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "I'll take that." There was a pause after that. Not awkward, just unfilled. She glanced at my coffee when it arrived, then back at me, still pretending to like that. I looked at the cup, then back at her. "You remember that? You used to make a face every time," she said. "Like you were trying to prove something." I smiled without meaning to. "Guess I still am." She nodded, like that made sense. We ended up sitting. I don't remember deciding it. One second she was standing, the next she was pulling out the chair across from me, setting her cup down carefully like she didn't want to interrupt something invisible. The conversation stayed light. Safer that way. She asked about work. I gave half answers. I asked about her son. She said he was good, then looked down at her hands for a moment longer than needed before changing the subject. At some point, I noticed the way she held her cup, both hands around it, even though it wasn't cold, like she needed the steadiness. And I kept catching myself looking at her hands. Not in a weird way, just noticing. I didn't ask why she was alone. She didn't ask why I kept checking my phone even when it didn't light up. There was a kind of understanding in that. Or maybe just politeness. When she stood up to leave, it felt earlier than it should have been. "I should go," she said, adjusting her sleeve slightly. "I've already stayed longer than I meant to." "Yeah," I said. "Same." But I didn't move. She hesitated, like she was about to say something else. Then she didn't. "Take care," she added, softer this time. "You too." She walked out without looking back. I watched the door longer than I needed to. My coffee had gone cold. I was still sitting there, phone in my hand, staring at a blank screen, when it finally buzzed. A message. From her. I stared at it for a second before opening it. And for some reason, my chest tightened like I already knew this wasn't just coincidence anymore. I didn't open her message right away. I just stared at her name like it might change if I looked long enough. Like it might turn into something more explainable. It didn't. "You still make that face, by the way." That was it. No follow-up. No reason. I read it twice. Then once more like maybe there was something hidden in it. There wasn't. Just her noticing something small. Again. I typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed again. "Only when the coffee's bad." Sent. I locked my phone immediately after, like I'd said too much. It became a quiet thing after that. Not constant. Not intense. Just there. A message every couple of days. Sometimes just a photo of something ordinary, a crooked shelf she fixed, a plant she said she was probably overwatering. Once, a picture of the same cafe table I'd sat at, empty this time. You weren't there to pretend again. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just liked it. That felt safer. The second time I saw her, it wasn't planned. At least, that's what I told myself. Her door was half open when I knocked. I almost turned around before she noticed. "Oh, hi," she said, a little surprised, but not enough to make me feel like I shouldn't be there. "I was nearby," I said, which wasn't really true. She stepped aside anyway. "Come in." The house felt quieter than I remembered. Not empty, just missing something I couldn't name. There were small signs of change. A chair moved slightly out of place. A different set of curtains. A box near the hallway that hadn't been there before. "You're reorganizing?" I asked. She glanced at the box, then back at me. "Trying to." I nodded, like that explained more than it did. "I can help," I added, a little too quickly. She hesitated for half a second. Then, "Okay." We didn't talk much while we worked. Just small things. "Careful with that. That one's lighter than it looks." "Wait. No, not that drawer." At one point, we both reached for the same stack of books. Our hands brushed. It wasn't anything. Just contact. Still, neither of us moved right away. She pulled back first. "Sorry," she said, almost under her breath. "It's fine," I replied, but my voice didn't sound like mine for a second. We kept going after that, but slower, more aware. Later, she made tea. Not coffee this time. We sat at the table across from each other, the same way we had at the cafe. Only this felt closer, quieter. She wrapped both hands around the cup again. "I didn't expect to see you that day," she said, looking at the steam instead of me. "Me neither." A pause. Then, softer. "Things have been different lately." I didn't ask what she meant. I think I already knew. "The house feels bigger," she added, almost like she regretted saying it. I nodded. "Yeah, I get that." She looked up then. Properly this time. "You do?" I shrugged, staring into my cup. "I mean, I don't really talk to people much anymore. Not like before." "That's not a good habit," she said. "I know." Another pause. Longer this time. I thought about saying something else. Something real. But it got stuck somewhere between my chest and my throat. Because this, whatever this was, it didn't fit anywhere clean. She's my friend's mom. She shouldn't feel easy to sit with. And I definitely shouldn't be thinking about what it would be like to stay longer. To not leave at all. I looked up and caught her watching me. Not in a curious way. Not even in a careful way. Just seeing. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. She broke the gaze first, reaching for her cup again, but her fingers brushed mine as she did. This time, neither of us said anything about it. After that day, things didn't go back to normal. They shifted. Quietly. Not in a way you could point to. Just a change in how often I checked my phone. How quickly I replied. How long I stared at her messages after the conversation had already ended. She started calling instead of texting. Not every day, but enough that it stopped feeling random. "Are you busy?" she'd ask. And even if I was, I'd say, no. One evening, she asked if I could come by again. "Just for a bit," she said. "There's something I can't reach." I almost laughed at that, but I didn't. When I got there, the house felt warmer. Not physically, just lived in. A lamp on in the corner. Music playing low, something soft I didn't recognize. She was standing on a chair when I walked in. "Hey, careful," I said, stepping forward without thinking. "I'm fine," she replied, but she didn't move. I reached up to grab the box she was trying to get. My arm brushed against her leg slightly. Not enough to mean anything. Enough to notice. "Got it," I said, setting it down. "Thanks." She stepped down slowly. Too slowly. For a second, we were closer than we needed to be. Neither of us stepped back. Then she turned away first, brushing her hands together like she'd just finished something important. "I made tea," she said, already walking toward the kitchen. We didn't sit this time. We stayed standing, leaning against opposite sides of the counter. Cups in hand. Steam rising between us like it was filling the space we weren't. "You've been coming around more?" she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Yeah." Another pause. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she added, quieter. I looked up. "You asked me to come." "I know." She exhaled, setting her cup down without drinking. That's the problem. I didn't say anything. Just watched her for a second. She looked unsure. Not distant. Not cold. Just caught somewhere in between. I think we should slow down, she said, but her voice didn't hold. Slow down from what? That came out sharper than I meant it to. She glanced at me, then away again. This, she said vaguely, gesturing between us like the word itself wasn't something she wanted to define. I let out a small breath, looking down at my hands. Right. Silence stretched. Longer this time. Thicker. I could hear the clock in the other room. Too loud. I'm not trying to make anything weird, I added, quieter now. I know you're not. Then what is it? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up her cup again, even though it had already gone lukewarm. It's just she stopped. I waited. You're him, she said finally. I frowned slightly. What? My son, she clarified, almost immediately. You're part of that. That life. It doesn't just change because time passed. I nodded slowly, even though something in my chest tightened. Yeah, I get that. But I didn't. Not fully. Because the way she looked at me sometimes didn't feel like that at all. And I think she knew it. There was a knock at the door. Sharp. Unexpected. We both turned toward it at the same time. You expecting someone? I asked. She shook her head. Another knock. Louder this time. She hesitated before moving, like she was deciding something in real time. I'll get it, she said. I stayed where I was, listening. Muffled voices. A familiar one. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. Her son. He wasn't supposed to be back yet. I stepped away from the counter instinctively, like distance could fix something that hadn't even been said out loud. Their conversation stayed low. I couldn't make out words, just tones. Surprise. A little tension. When she came back, her expression had changed. Not completely. Just enough. He's staying for a few days, she said. I nodded, already reaching for my jacket. Yeah, I should probably. You don't have to leave right now, she interrupted, a little too quickly. I paused. She stepped closer then. Not all the way. Just enough. Just don't make it obvious, she added, softer. Something about that landed wrong. Obvious. I repeated. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I didn't mean, it's fine, I said, but it wasn't. Another silence. Closer this time. Too close. I don't know what shifted in that moment. Maybe the interruption. Maybe the way everything suddenly felt limited. But when she looked at me again, it wasn't careful anymore. It was something else. Her hand moved slightly, like she was about to reach for mine, or stop me from leaving. Or, I stepped closer without thinking. She didn't move away. We were close enough now that I could hear her breathing. Slow. Unsteady. Her eyes dropped to my mouth for a second, then back up. I think she was about to say something. Or maybe I was. But neither of us did. And that's what made it worse. The next few days felt off. Not dramatic. Just slightly misaligned, like everything had shifted half an inch and hadn't settled back. I stopped going over. Not because she told me to. Just, it felt like the right thing to do. Her messages slowed too. Shorter. Less frequent. Still there, but careful now. Like we both knew something had almost happened, and neither of us knew where to put it. I ran into them at a small grocery store near her place. I almost turned around when I saw them, but it was too late. Her son spotted me first. Hey, man, he said, pulling me into a quick hug like nothing had changed. Didn't know you were around. Yeah, just for a bit. I replied, my voice steady in a way I didn't feel. She was a few steps behind him, holding a basket. When our eyes met, she smiled. Not the same way as before. Softer. Controlled. Hi, she said. Hi. That was it. No extra words. No lingering. Just normal. Too normal. We ended up walking out together. It wasn't planned. It just happened. He was talking about something. Work, I think, but I wasn't really listening. I was aware of where she was the entire time. A step behind. Then beside me. Then just slightly ahead when he stopped to check his phone. Small shifts. Constant awareness. At one point, our hands brushed again while reaching for the same bag. She pulled hers back quickly this time. Didn't look at me. Hey, I'm gonna grab something from the other shop, he said suddenly. You guys go ahead, I'll catch up. Before either of us could respond, he was already walking off. And just like that, it was quiet again. We kept walking. Side by side. Not touching. The street wasn't busy. Just the sound of cars passing occasionally. A dog barking somewhere in the distance. I didn't know you shopped here, I said, mostly to fill the space. I don't. Not usually. A pause. Just easier right now. I nodded. We walked a few more steps before she slowed down slightly. I saw you were typing the other night, she said. I glanced at her. What? On the message, she clarified. You started typing, then stopped. I let out a small breath. Yeah. What were you going to say? I looked ahead, not answering right away. Does it matter? It might. Another pause. Longer this time. I could feel it building again. That same tension. Not loud. Just pressing. I was going to ask if we were pretending, I said finally. She stopped walking. I took a step before realizing, then turned back. Pretending what? She asked, but her voice already knew. That this is normal. It should be. But it's not. She looked down at the ground for a second, then back at me. I know, she said quietly. There it was. Not denial. Not distance. Just acknowledgement. I don't like how easy it is, I added, my voice dropping. Being around you. It shouldn't feel like that. She swallowed slightly, her grip tightening on the bag in her hand. It's not easy for me, she said. Then why does it feel like you want it to be? Her eyes flickered then, just for a second. I don't, she replied, but it came out softer than it should have. We stood there, facing each other in the middle of the sidewalk. Not close enough. Not far enough. I think about it, I admitted. I hadn't planned to say that. Her expression shifted. Not shocked. Just exposed. About what? She asked, even though she didn't need to. You know, a breath. A step closer. Not intentional. Just happening. I shouldn't, I added. I know that. She didn't move. Didn't step back. I do too, she said. But she didn't sound convinced. The air felt heavier now. Like everything was narrowing into this one moment. I could see it in the way she looked at me. Not avoiding. Not careful. Just there. Her hand moved slightly, like she was about to reach out. Or stop me. Or maybe she didn't know either. If things were different, I started, then stopped. She waited. I exhaled slowly, trying to find something that made sense. Would you? I didn't finish. Because I wasn't sure if I wanted the answer. And I think she knew that too. After that, she went quiet. Not all at once. Not in a way you could call out. Just less. Her replies got shorter. Then slower. Then sometimes not at all. At first, I told myself she was busy. That her son being back changed things. That it made sense. But even after he left, because I knew when he left, she mentioned it once, casually, it didn't go back. If anything, it got worse. I stopped going near her place. Not intentionally. Just my routes changed. My timing shifted. I found reasons to be somewhere else. Still, my phone stayed in my hand more than it should have. I'd open our chat, scroll up, reread things that didn't mean anything on their own, but felt like they did when you looked at them long enough. That picture of the empty cafe table. Her saying, "It's quieter without him here." I never asked which him she meant. A week passed. Then another. And then, out of nowhere, she sent a message. I think we should take a step back. That was it. No explanation. No context. Just that. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I typed something. Did I do something? Deleted. Okay. Deleted. Is this about what I said? Deleted. I locked my phone and set it face down on the table like that would make it disappear. It didn't. I saw her once after that. Not up close. Just from across the street. She was standing outside her house, talking to someone. A man. Older. Not by much, but enough. He leaned against his car like he'd been there before. Like he knew where to stand. She looked different with him. Not happier. Just familiar in a way that didn't include me. I almost walked over. I didn't. Instead, I stood there longer than I should have, watching something I didn't understand. At one point, he said something that made her laugh. Not softly. Not controlled. A real laugh. I hadn't heard that from her before. That stayed with me. Later that night, I opened her message again. I think we should take a step back. I typed this time. Is it because of him? I stared at it. Read it once. Twice. Then erased it. Because I didn't have the right to ask that. Did I? The next day, I passed by the cafe. I didn't plan to stop. I just slowed down. The table by the window was empty. I stood outside for a second, watching it like it might explain something. It didn't. It was just a table, just a place we happened to sit once. I went inside anyway, ordered the same coffee, sat in the same seat, folded the napkin the same way, smaller and smaller squares. Nothing changed, except everything felt off, like I was sitting in a version of something that had already ended. My phone buzzed once while I was there. Not her. I didn't even check who it was. I just left it face down on the table, next to the cup I wasn't drinking. And for the first time, I didn't wait for it to light up again. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. I didn't plan to go back. That's what I told myself the entire walk there. Just passing by. Just checking if the light was on. Just something that wasn't what it actually was. But when I got to her street, I didn't slow down. I stopped. Her house looked the same. Nothing dramatic. No sign that anything had changed. Still, I stood there longer than I should have, hands in my pockets, shifting my weight like I was waiting for someone to decide for me. No one did. So I walked up and knocked. It took a few seconds. Then the door opened. She looked surprised. Not shocked. Just like she hadn't expected this version of things. "Hi," I said. "Hi." A pause. Neither of us moved right away. I was nearby. I added, even though we both knew that didn't matter. She nodded slowly. "Okay." Another pause. Then she stepped aside. "Do you want to come in?" I hesitated for half a second. "Yeah." The house felt quieter again. Not empty. Just still. She walked ahead into the kitchen, and I followed, stopping near the counter like I had before. It felt familiar in a way that made it harder. She didn't offer tea this time. Just leaned slightly against the counter, arms loosely crossed, like she didn't know where to put them. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. "I didn't think I would either." That almost made her smile. Almost. Silence settled in again. Not uncomfortable. Just waiting. "I saw you," I said after a moment. Her eyes flickered. "When?" "A few days ago. Outside." She looked down briefly, then back up. "Okay. That was him." I asked. I didn't say who. She knew. "Yes." She didn't explain further. Didn't rush to. I nodded, looking at the counter instead of her. "Are you back together?" There it was. The question I wasn't supposed to ask. She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding that in. "I don't know," she said. "Honest. Too honest." "It's familiar," she added. Easy in a different way. I let out a small breath. Right. We stood there, the space between us filled with things that weren't being said. "I meant what I said," she continued, quieter now. "About taking a step back. I figured. It wasn't just because of him." I looked up then. "Then what?" She hesitated. "Not long. Just enough." "You," she said. That landed somewhere deep. "Me?" "Yes." Another pause. "You make it hard to ignore," she added, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't move. Didn't trust myself to. "That's not a good thing," she said quickly, like she needed to correct it. "Not in this situation." "I know. But I still," she stopped, closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. "I still think about it too." There it was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just said. I swallowed, my chest tightening in a way that felt both heavy and clear at the same time. "Then why stop?" I asked. She looked at me for a long second. Not avoiding. Not softening. Just steady. "Because I know how this ends if we don't." I didn't have an answer for that. Because part of me knew she was right. And part of me didn't care. "I don't want to pretend it's nothing," I said quietly. "I'm not pretending." "Then what is this?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer. "Not all the way. Just enough. It's something we don't get to keep," she said. That stayed in the air between us. Heavy. Final. I nodded slowly, even though it didn't feel like agreement. Just understanding. We're trying to. Another silence. Closer now. Different. I thought about reaching for her. Didn't. She looked at me like she might. Didn't. And somehow, that restraint said more than anything else we could have done. After a moment, she gave a small, almost tired smile. "Okay," she said softly. I looked at her. At everything we hadn't done. Everything we had. Then nodded. "Okay." Tom didn't fix it. It just made space around it. I stopped going to her street completely after that night. Not out of discipline. Just instinct. Like my body knew it wouldn't know how to stand there again without expecting something. Work filled in the gaps. Random routines I didn't care about before started to matter more than they should have. I switched cafes. Different place. Different table. Still black coffee I didn't like. Still folding napkins without thinking. Some habits don't ask for permission. We didn't talk for a while. No messages. No calls. At first, I noticed the silence. Then I adjusted to it. Then, it became normal in a way that felt wrong, but manageable. I told myself that was it. That some things don't turn into anything. They just happen once, quietly, and leave. A few months later, I saw her again. Same cafe. Not the new one. The old one. I almost didn't go in when I saw her through the window. She was sitting at the same table. By the glass. Hands wrapped around a cup, just like before. For a second, it felt like nothing had changed. Then she looked up, saw me, and didn't look away. I walked in. Didn't rush. Didn't hesitate either. Just walked. When I reached the table, she smiled. Not controlled this time. Not careful. Just real. Still pretending to like it, she asked, nodding toward the counter. I let out a small breath, something between a laugh and something else. Yeah. I ordered the same thing. Of course I did. When I sat down across from her, it felt familiar in a way that didn't hurt anymore. Just known. We didn't fill the space right away. Didn't need to. How have you been? She asked after a moment. Okay. You look it. You don't. I replied before I could stop myself. She raised an eyebrow slightly. Different, I added, softer. She smiled at that. A small one. I've been figuring things out. With him? I asked. She shook her head. No. That was all she said. And it was enough. The conversation moved slowly after that. Not forced. Just steady. We talked about small things first. Work. The city. How places change without you noticing. At some point, she mentioned the house. I moved some things around, she said. Got rid of a few boxes. I nodded. Still feels big. I asked. She looked at me for a second, then shook her head slightly. Not as much. Something about the way she said it made me pause. Not because of what it meant, but because of what it didn't need to explain. Time passed without either of us checking it. The light outside shifted slightly. The cafe got a little louder, then quiet again. At some point, my coffee went cold. Of course it did. I didn't make a face this time. She noticed. You didn't react, she said. I'm getting used to it. Or you just stopped pretending. Maybe. A small silence. Comfortable. The kind that doesn't ask to be filled. When we stood up to leave, it didn't feel like an ending. Not like before. We walked outside together. Not too close. Not distant either. Just side by side. At the corner, we slowed down. Neither of us said anything right away. Then she looked at me. Not searching. Not unsure. Just present. I'm glad you came in, she said. Me too. A pause. Then, without overthinking it, she reached out and adjusted my sleeve slightly. Something small. Something unnecessary. Her hand lingered for half a second longer than it needed to. Then she let go. I didn't step back. Didn't step forward either. We just stood there for a moment. Quiet. Understood. Okay. She asked again, softer this time. I nodded. Okay. And this time, it didn't feel like letting go. It felt like something settling into place. Not perfect. Not simple. But real. Later that night, I made coffee at home. Black. Still didn't like it. Still drank it anyway. I caught myself smiling for no real reason. And I didn't question it. Some things don't need to be explained. They just stay. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?